Ancient Mesopotamia. My name is Mattie. I'm
Nery.
And before we get started, does anyone know anything about Mesopotamia? They want to. Go ahead.
It's in between the Tigris and the Euphrates.
Okay.
River.
Adam.
There was the Sumerians and Babylonians and Assyrians that lived in it.
Okay. I'm going to show you our timeline.
Okay, so Gilgamesh is a king, and he was warned by God that there was going to be a storm. The god was angry, so he took every animal of different species, and put it in a boat so they could survive. And he is very legendary. And cuneiform was developed during this time. It was first symbols, and then they turned into writings. It evolved over time. Okay, so Hammurabi Code was developed during this time.
To start us off, we're just going to watch a quick little video. It's really short, so just pay attention.
5,000 years, the scorching sands of the... For nearly 5,000 years, the scorching sands of the Iraqi desert have held relics of the oldest known civilization, the Sumerian. Our world owes the Sumerians everything. They invented writing and the wheel. They divided time into minutes and seconds. They tamed nature and built gigantic cities. They loved culture and the arts. Their caravans crossed the desert, opening up the first trade routes. Their stories inspired our founding myths, and their memory lives on in the Old Testament. They wrote the history of the birth pangs of mankind. Yet 4,000 years ago, this brilliant civilization died out. For a long time, its very existence remained a mystery. But today, the desert sands are at last yielding some of the secrets of this fascinating civilization.
Here we go.
I'm doing writing, and cuneiform were used by Mesopotamia. They were developed in 3,500 through 3000 BCE. They came from a Latin word meaning wedge, since they have a wedge-shaped style of writing. And the most common used cuneiform was Phoenician. Okay, so we want you guys to write your name.
On the little paper that we
On the
passed
little
out.
paper that we just we'll give you guys one.
You got the picture right there.
There's a ball right there.
Whoa.
You got 15 seconds.
Whoa.
Time.
Historical information and education. So first, when cuneiform wasn't invented yet, pictograms were used to communicate taxes and crops. Years later, they developed it into cuneiform. The people that couldn't read and write were made to be writers called scribes. And as time went on, cuneiform developed. Okay, so scribes kept record for the government on medicine, astronomy, and mathematics. They also recorded events, trades, and literature on tablet clay. But only people near the east were able to write in cuneiform. And as you see, there's a picture of a writer writing scripts. And here's a and Mattie is going to take you to climate.
Mesopotamia and Iraq, the reason I say that is because Mesopotamia, Iraq is present day Mesopotamia, so don't get confused, they're the same. The impact of climate. The effects that the climate has on Mesopotamia, it affects their food that they eat, so they couldn't grow certain crops in the wintertime, of course. The clothes that they wear, so they will probably want to dress warm in the wintertime and dress more light in the summertime. And it also affects where they live and how they live. So they will probably have to move sometimes if it was a flood or things that occurred. In this picture, you can see where it's lighter, so like all right here, that would be where it rarely would rain, so like no rain at all. And then where it's darkest would be like right here and over there. The average temperature in Iraq was 48 degrees and higher. It was usually freezing in January, and rainfall would come usually between December through April. And climate change was one of the major challenges in Iraq.
Oh, geography. A great word for Mesopotamia is between the river. The river that Mesopotamia had was Tigris and Euphrates, and Mesopotamia is made up from different regions, and each owns their own geography. And this is the Tigris River right here. Economy, trade and commerce developing between Mesopotamia because the farmers learned how to create their own food. Their land. They could grow more food than what they plant, they could eat. And this is a picture of their land. This is a picture of their land and what how they crop their food
And I'm doing religion. So Eli is god of wind, Enki is god of wisdom, Inanna is god of love, and Nana is god of food. And here's a picture of the gods. And there's a resource at the bottom. So ziggurats were temples built by Mesopotamia, and they were built so the Mesopotamia could worship their gods and goddesses. And the impacts of the religion on the people and civilization is the Mesopotamia, they had to follow beliefs, rituals, and the standards of conduct. So here's our 6 things that they had to follow. So an unborn child, they had to do a ritual to see if the child is good or bad. They offer off animals and milk and other stuff. So just like the Egyptians, they cut you up when you're dead and put you in a coffin. And they believe that the earth is a flat surface surrounded by water. And they tell stories about their gods, and they also believe in the spirit world. Okay, so the rise and fall of the religion. They practice their religion a lot, and so they tell their children and grandchildren about their gods and goddesses, so their religion could continue. Their religion still remains today on websites and internet and stuff, and their religion still remains in museums. But today there is no government?
The civilization was a monarchy democracy. The reason I say this is because they had a king or queen or god or goddess, as you would say, but they got to choose who they wanted to be. So king or queen plus vote. Their military conquest, Babylonian language would have later been used across the Middle East as communication across the borders because of the military conquest. And here's a picture of the rocks that they threw. The rulers, Anu was god of heaven. Amamiku, he was god of earth. Marduk, he was the god of magic. And Lil, sorry, I can't see the picture. He was god of air. He was a Sumerian. The last of them we'll talk about is Sargon and Hammurabi. Sargon was special because of his conquest through Sumerian city-states in the 23rd and 22nd century BC. And Hammurabi was special because of his harsh system of laws. There were 282 laws that he had created. I have 3 of them here. I'm only going to read 2. Number 13 was if a man had not brought his witnesses with him to court, then he would have gotten a time period to go and find his witnesses. If he did not bring his witnesses back at that time, then he would face the judge. So he would get a time period. And number 14 is if a man has stolen a child, then he would be put to death. So don't steal children. This is what they wrote the laws on. So like we use books, that's what they use. This is Hammurabi, and this is another picture of the laws.
Alright, whenever Nebuchadnezzar was in power, he was in power of Babylon, the armies were basically unstoppable. They successfully invaded over 5 towns, and no one wanted to fear with them. Their city that he led, Babylon, it was really good in defense. There were 2 walls guarding the whole city. They were 14 miles long. There was the first wall that was 300 feet tall, I believe, and it was 25 feet thick. And then the second wall was 450 feet tall, and no one's really sure of the depth. Nebuchadnezzar, he had built the Hanging Gardens just for his wife because he knew how much she missed her homelands, which were like green and valleys and everything. There are the 2 pictures here. This is Babylon. You can see the walls going all the way around it. And then right there is a ziggurat. They use those because they believe the closer they get to the gods and they prayed, they felt that would be the gods would hear them faster, and then they would be able to answer their prayers faster. Ancient Mesopotamia is in present-day Iraq and eastern Syria. It's between 2 rivers. That's where Mesopotamia comes from, and it was home of 2 major empires. The blue is the Euphrates River, and the green is the Tigris River. The 2 sports they played there were boxing and wrestling. Those are the main ones. They played other ones, but they're not as common. Those are the main 2 sports played, and there's just a picture of 2 men boxing. The clothes they wore, it was mainly all cotton. No one's truly sure of the colors, and they were like long robes, as seen in the picture. The food they would eat bread, fruit, onions, fish, lamb, honey, and they would drink milk. And occasionally they would drink beer, but whenever they would make it themselves, whenever they made it, they would make it with the oldest recipe they could find.
Okay, so Mesopotamia still exists in other countries. So their articles and artifactures and cuneiform, they are given to museums. And their ancient civilizations will remain forever.
That is our Mesopotamia.